Morning. Hi, Shashi. Nytrix. Good morning, family. Good morning to you, Shashi. How are you? How's your business going? Yeah. Well, just feel free. If you do not want to share with us about the progress, whatever, that's fine. Don't want to put some extra pressure on you. Yeah. Whenever you feel like sharing, just share it in here. If not, then don't. Okay. I ask you this question like, how's the business going? But somehow I remember that back then when I first started my business, because usually the first period of time when you start up your business was the toughest. And during that period of time, I do not like people asking me all the time, hey, how's the progress? How's the business? Something like that, because you were literally just sorting everything out. so so the moment I asked you this question, I immediately just regretted asking you this. Yeah, because I do not like people asking me that when I was still in the very first stage of exploring how to do things and sorting things out, and then ask you this. But somehow, because there are people, especially like family and friends, who really care about you, they would be just so curious to know what's going on, right? And then they would ask you. They just couldn't help asking you this question, right? So recently, I also have a friend who was having a surgery. It was not like a big surgery, but it was pretty like a big one. It's not like huge kind of surgery, but it's like something removal kind of a surgery, right? And then I know that usually you shouldn't just chat with her, because right after surgery, it was the time for her to take a lot of rest, and you're not supposed to interrupt her resting. Somehow, I just couldn't feel. I was just always so worried about her, so that's why I just couldn't help asking, like, how's it going? Is it fine with you? Something like that, etc. No, I'm still stuck in corporate. Well, the less I speak, the better. Oh, okay. So you actually just submitted your resigning letter, but somehow you're still in there, right? Because usually after you resign, there's a period of time before you could actually really leave the company. Really? Is that the case? Is that the case, Shashi? 哎呀，今天口红没拿过来，算了，就这么着吧。Okay, all right. Yeah. So we just started, and welcome everyone for coming in here. And just so you guys know, for those of you who haven't followed me, don't forget to follow me. And for those of you who are new in here, don't forget to also join our family's club. And also just keep on tapping the screen to sending likes. 诶为什么有股焦味啊？窗外的哈，有股焦味。There's some strong like burnt kind of smell in here. I'm not so sure where it comes from. Hopefully it's not from my own kitchen. Yeah, I'm all good, Richard. How are you? Yeah, and also for those of you who are new in here, just so you know, it is our tradition that whenever you're in the live stream room, you need to keep on tapping the screen to sending likes. Okay, you need to keep on tapping the screen to sending likes. Yeah. Well, no, that was wishful thinking. Hopefully soon. Yeah. So now is the time to practice your manifestation skill. So just to think about the things that you believe will happen. Well, that may be the something that you want, but just think in a way that this is not something I want. This is something that will for sure happen. It's just that that will happen in the future. So just do the manifestation. So everything will happen according to your will. My lovely Shashi. Okay. All the best wishes to you. Okay. All right. And again, so for all the new friends in here, if you haven't followed me, don't forget to follow me. OK，新进来的宝宝们，如果还没有关注的话，记得关注哦。我是一个中国宝子，但是我们这边的直播间因为是非常的国际化，this is a very international live stream room. We have people from literally everywhere, so that is why majority of the time in here I will speak English from time to time would also speak Chinese. Okay. And for Chinese friends who are in here, if you do not know English very well, so you could also just do one thing, which is to download a specific app that is called 讯飞听见. And by using that app, you could listen to me speaking in English, and at the same time on the screen, you will notice the Chinese translation. Okay. Yeah. So yesterday, what were we talking about? Yeah. What were we talking about yesterday, my friends? What were we talking about yesterday? Is there anyone still remember what we talked about yesterday? Yeah. So we're going to continue with that discussion today, and that is a very interesting discussion. We were not able to finish the entire discussion simply because there was not enough time to continue to finish the entire discussion. So that is why we will continue to discuss it. Thank you, Nytrix. I have a couple of linear to dedicate to you. Lines. Oh, okay. I was thinking like, what is linear? Okay, sure. Just send it in. Yeah. Okay. So, guys, yesterday we were discussing a big topic. The topic is actually raised by one of the followers in my live stream room. Okay. So, just like this same friend, if you guys have any question, any thoughts, any great topic suggestion, just send it in the comment area. Just send it in the comment area. So, yesterday, someone, well, not yesterday, well, actually, several days before, someone asked me this question. This question is, why? What's your opinion? Well, actually, what's your opinion on the phenomenon that nowadays you notice a lot of Western elite schools is hiring more and more students from wealthy families compared to the schools, elite schools here in the East? So that is the kind of question and a topic raised. Okay. 是我们家的胶吗? Yeah. So, okay. So the question again, okay. So raised by someone was exactly, so that, 啊，你不是说不要关吗？继续开着吗？我还加了水。好吧，我以为是那个，我记得你说我加完黑豆粉以后继续再煮一会儿，所以我还特意加了水啊，煮焦了，早饭煮焦了。Yeah, it was my kitchen. Yeah. I was like, wait, why is there a smoke? Why is there a smell of something that is burned? Yeah. And I was thinking like, whoa, is it maybe it's from some other places, not from my kitchen, but somehow it's from my own kitchen. So I turned the fire to the minimal, and also I add some extra water in it, but somehow it's still burned, got burned. Oh, too bad. 这个锅还是我很喜欢的一个锅呢，那还是一个珐琅锅呢。Oh my goodness. You know, one of the things that I cannot avoid is just to burn everything from time to time. Yeah, I just always burn things. Oh, hate it, hate it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, back to this topic. I was saying that, okay, so yesterday the topic was, oh, I feel so sad about this pod. That is actually one of my favorite pod. It's a quite expensive pod. 不是你跟我讲了，我理解错了。My husband was actually blaming for that. Yeah. Okay. So back to this topic. Yeah. So we were saying that where were we? Okay. So yesterday's topic was around. We were saying that someone raised this question. Someone actually mentioned about 说明你一定会活，谢谢，谢谢你的安慰。我现在心里边有点 sad. I was feeling quite sad about this pod. It got burned. Oh my god, that is actually my favorite pod. It was given to me by a friend as my as a wedding gift. Ah, love it. Oh, hate it. Why this pot got burned? Yeah. 啊，幸好我还加了点水，不然的话可能焦的糊的更彻底。哎呀，真的有点难受，有点难受。Okay, back to this topic again. So sorry, guys. I was actually mourning for my pot. 符合大部分人的情绪价值。The same as me，每次做饭都会糊。哎呦，真的是啊，有点难受，有点难受。其实已经调最小火，我特地 check 有没有最小火。I actually double checked whether the fire is minimal, and also I put some extra water in it to make sure it doesn't get burned, but somehow it still got burned. Okay, so sorry, enough mourning of this pot. Okay, so I have to get back to this topic. I was basically saying that before, so several days ago, a friend raised this topic in the comment area, asking me this question, which is, what's your opinion on the phenomenon that nowadays more and more elite schools, and especially in the West, is actually recruiting more students from the wealthy family. You will notice majority of the people in the campus of those Western universities actually are from wealthy families, and especially compared to the families here, especially compared to the universities here in the East. Okay. And also, so one of the also you sort of agree with that. Well, that is considered to be a relatively good topic because somehow also several just like 1 week ago, right, there is a very heated discussion on the internet, on social media, around a lady, Miss Zhang, who was able to give a speech in Harvard's graduation ceremony. And somehow, just because her way of speech is not as good as what people expected, there are lots of attacks against her. Like, why is she able to give a speech on Harvard's stage in its graduation ceremony? And a lot of people just simply attack her out of there. And then, so sort of what happened later is a lot of people started to have a deeper dive into her family background. They started to notice that she actually comes from a quite wealthy family. And a lot of people started to continue attack by saying that, oh, okay, you are not just going to Harvard because you're excellent, you're talented. You're going there simply because you're from a wealthy family. Your family is the reason why you're able to get into the school. And that is so not fair. There was a lot of discussion on that. So somehow that was also related to the kind of topic we're discussing today, which was raised by one of the followers in this live chat room, in the common area, by asking me, hey, Nytrix, could you please share what is your opinion? What is your thought on nowadays? Like, we notice, especially compared to the elite schools here in the East, especially in China, a lot of the elite schools in the West and the US specifically are now having more and more students from wealthy families. Do you consider that to be fair or not? So that is why we started discussing about this topic from the very first angle. This is considered to be a very big topic, and there are so many smaller perspectives that we can discuss. And the very first thing I discuss about is about the tuition fee. So I noticed that I did not know that until I started live stream earlier this year. So I started live stream at the end of January, early February, when TikTok refugee all flooded to Red Note, and I noticed that is a great opportunity to start a conversation with people from around the world, especially in the US. And a lot of people just come into this live stream and share it with me and saying that, you know what, here in the US, the tuition fee in the college is so expensive. And we had every time we discuss about this topic, and there would just be people coming to the live stream and just share in the comment area and tell me that, oh, okay, it is really true that the tuition fee in the US is extremely expensive in the US. Believe it or not, if you do not believe, we can try it again. Okay, so for all those people in the live stream, if you have been to the you have studied in the US very recently, or your children are studying in the US very recently, or like you at least know some knowledge about the tuition fee in the US, just type in the comment area, okay? Just tell us which university and what is the annual tuition fee. Just tell us in the comment area. And you guys could witness with your own eyes and see how expensive the tuition fee it is in the US, in the universities. Okay? So, okay, guys, do it. So if you guys have tell me which university and what's annual tuition fee, especially for those who are recently attending universities in the US, or recently graduated, or like your children are about to go there or graduate and they're studying there, whatever. As long as you know what is the current tuition fee in the US, just tell us, share with us this information in the comment area. First of all, which university, and second, what is the tuition fee, annual tuition fee. Okay, guys, do it and show it to other friends and let them see how expensive is that. Okay, so personally, I know. So personally, for me, I know, especially for those Ivy League school, the average tuition fee for those university is on average at least 80,000 US dollars per year. Yesterday, someone shared with us, like saying that the law school in Harvard, and that is supposed to be one of the best law school. Okay, so the law school in Harvard. Now, your oral English is so good. Thank you, Amy Hu. Thank you, Amy Hu. Yeah. And guys, follow me, please, if you haven't done so. So someone yesterday in the live stream shared with me about the law school in Harvard Law School's annual tuition fee. And the annual tuition fee for Harvard's law school is 120,000 US dollars. 120,000 US dollars. And that is the most expensive I have heard about. Because some people told me, like, for example, for MIT, Princeton, those kind of university, definitely elite universities, right? Their annual tuition fee is around 80,000 US dollars. Or in Chinese, that is in renminbi term, that is going to be 8756 is around 60,000 well 600,000 renminbi, right? 1年60万左右的学费，差不多50-60万的学费，对于那些常春藤名校来讲。And if you're talking about those some of those schools, for example, I heard a university which is University of Southern California, USC. Okay, USC, because one of my mentor, so she has a son. Her younger son is currently studying in USC, and she shared with me the annual tuition fee for USC right now is 90,000. Sorry, is 90,000. And then somehow yesterday someone also shared with me that Harvard Law School's tuition fee is around 120,000 US dollars. These are all so expensive. So that is why we just continue to very dive deep into it and see that, wait, why is it so that those universities are actually charging so much for the students to come in to study, right? So is that supposed to be something fair, right? If you just charge like expensive tuition fee, the only students from extremely wealthy family could just come to study, right? For students from mid-level income family or even low income family, no matter how genius they are, there's just simply a lower chance for them to be able to get into the university and study. You could tell that you could also say that, oh yeah, you know what, we have scholarships for low income and mid income students to somehow apply and get scholarships so that they can afford to study in those elite schools. But first of all, I mean, like when you have such a high tuition fee, the competition in the scholarship application must be really fierce. Am I lagging? Really? So someone says that I'm lagging. Am I lagging? Because I don't think I usually will lag on Red Note. Am I lagging in there? Yeah, guys, tell me if I am really lagging. Just let me know. Your pronunciation is so good. Thank you. No, it's fine. Okay, got it. Yeah, Ziggy. So maybe it's you. The internet has some problems, so that's why you would see me lagging. Okay, so rest of the people in here are not seeing me lagging. Okay, so just double check your internet connection and see what's going on. Okay. Yeah, and guys, for those of you who are new in here, don't forget to follow me. Okay. Yeah, don't forget to follow me. Yeah. Where does one get 480,000 for 4 years tuition? Yeah, exactly. That is so expensive. And we also compared that with we also need to compare we also compared that the tuition fee for the elite school in the US with the tuition fee we're charging here in China. Okay, just so you guys know, I'm from China, okay? 我来自中国，中国人哈。100%中国宝宝, and we noticed that the tuition fee for the elite school in the US is actually over 100 times expensive than the tuition fee we're charging here in China. 100%, not 100%, sorry, 100 times. Okay, 100 times. So we did that comparison yesterday, and we noticed that the tuition fee in the US is actually 100 times more expensive than the tuition fee we're charging here in China. Okay, we're charging here in China. And also what's going on else is that the tuition fee here in China not only include the tuition fee alone, okay? So it also includes the textbook fee and also the dormitory, the living expense. So for all the students here in China, as long as they pay around like 3,000 US dollar, around that amount of money for a year, then they'll be able to study in the university for an entire year. And also on top of that, they get free textbooks, and which is all brand new. And also they could do one more thing, which is they could also live in the campus without paying extra money. There are dormitory just for students to live in, and that tuition fee also includes all the dormitory fee. So it is pretty affordable for ordinary families to go into those like very elite school here in China. We also mentioned about the fact that here in China, the college entrance criteria is also very fair. Well, sometimes to be honest, in my opinion, that is considered to be too fair. So that is why, like when you have too fair kind of a criteria, you lack some certain flexibility, right? So everyone, as long as you want to get into the top elite school here in China, you just have to attend the college entrance examination, and the paper and the exams, like everyone attend. It is exactly same for all the 12th year grade students in every region. So that is considered to be something very fair. Okay, so that is why that okay, this is a quick wrap about what we were we discussing about yesterday and why we want to discuss about this topic. And when we continue,你在快手直播估计得有几万人看，我就不一定啊。我觉得我的这个直播的这个内容不一定是快手的这个是喜欢的喜欢的内容呀。但是感谢你的建议哈，Thank you. So that's why, like yesterday, we first dive very deep into the reasons behind why all those elite schools are charging such a high, expensive tuition fee. And so, because of the time limit, we were only able to discuss the first four reasons. And as a summary, the first reason is prestige and high demand. A lot of people want to get into those university. According to the law of market, as long as you have a lot of demand and a limited supply, what happens is the price of the product will just go up, right? So consider just college entrance exam. Just consider just consider university education as a product. Well, as a matter of fact, it is a product, right? Students are basically the consumers. Like students want to buy university education, and we want to get into the best universities to get the best education. So that is why that there is a huge demand, and then somehow there is limited supply. What happens to this price of this product? The price will become very high. So that is the first reason. And the second reason is exceptional faculty and resources. And all of these really burn money. So, like I said, so universities, you could also consider it as a product or a service provider. So they also need to compete with themselves, with their peers, right? MIT needs to compete with Harvard. Harvard needs to compete with Stanford. Stanford's need to compete with Princeton. All of them need to compete with each other so that they could just get the best faculty in their university, so that they could use the best faculty, the best research resources, and the best labs, the best technology to continue hire the most talented, the most genius students, and also the students from the wealthiest family. Okay, so that is why those kind of investment they put into their own product, their own like service providing machine, you call it whatever. Okay, these are also burn money. So when the cost is high, what would you do? You would also raise the price, right? So that the price, the revenue you get will be enough to cover all the costs in here. So that's also the second reason. And the third reason is pretty ironic. We actually also said it. It was not me that come to the conclusion saying that the third reason is very ironic. It's actually DeepSeek who gave me this answer and said that ironically, okay, the third reason is about financial aid and need blind admissions. Need blind admissions. So what that means is ironically, okay, a very high tuition fee is so interesting. Okay, I'm gonna re-elaborate it. So for those elite schools, when they are charging extremely high tuition fee, they somehow shut the doors for a lot of students who are very talented from middle income or low income families. But sort of they also just want students from those like low income, mid income families who are extremely talented to come and study in their school, right? They do not want them to become a somehow a 贵族学校. How to say 贵族? How to say 贵族? What's the word for 贵族? A noble school, right? They do not just want to package themselves to become a noble school. They also want students from like mediocre families. But sort of those are the students who are also very genius, very talented, and that's why they can come in here and contribute to all the research work as well, right? So sort of they also want those kind of students as well. So they say that, hey, we need to provide financial aid to those students as well. So that is why that we are charging some very high tuition fee. from the rest of the students. That is so ironic, right? So if you're able to just charge all the tuition fee, just like here in China, like it is very low, everyone can afford to go in there. So students from middle income and low income could just come in and study in those universities, right? And you don't do that. Well, I could also understand it because there are some other reasons behind that, right? So sort of they also charge a very, very high tuition fee. And because of that, that shut the doors for all those low income, middle income students to come in and study. Oh, and then they also want them. That's why they say we're charging high tuition fees so that we can have some money to pay to those kind of students, to subsidize those kind of students, so that eventually they can come also in here to study. 现在天天看直播，晚上做梦都在模仿我的英文，说英文很好的肉，马上你就英文讲的贼溜了啊。OK， yeah. And the fourth one, okay, we stop at the fourth one simply because not enough time. Okay, I think there are a lot of things I could actually continue elaborate on the fourth one. So the fourth one, like I said yesterday, is about networking and career opportunities. Okay, career opportunities, networking, and career opportunities. So we were saying that, okay, a lot of the students, the reason why they consider this investment in those elite schools, even though how expensive that is very worthwhile. It's because it is really true that the best employer, the companies, the kind of industry, the kind of companies that pays the best actually do pay attention to which school you are from. I said I previously worked in one of the most famous company in the world, and that is also considered to be a very prestigious investment bank on Wall Street. Everyone would just want to be in there. A lot of people, not everyone, sorry, a lot of people would just want to be in there. They would be dying to just get into this company, get a position in there. I know how fierce competition was. The competition would be to get a position inside those kind of companies, because I myself have actually experienced the entire process and I know how tough that is. And later on, when I was really able to work inside those large company and become sort of like an employer role as well, right? I need to also recruit new talents for my team, and also that's why I would also become employer and start to interview others. And I noticed that as an interviewer, as an employer myself, I also actually would look at their resumes. And so when I look at their resumes, the first thing I pay attention is which school this student is from. So it is true that in order to get into the best employer, to earn a lot of money, to get a position, get in the position, get a position that pays you a very high salary, you do need a very good school label, a very good college brand on your resume. So I said that yesterday, like getting into the best school does not guarantee you a very good spot in a very good employer. But if you want to get into a very good company, that company get a position that pays you very high, you cannot not from a good school 啊。用逻辑学来讲，这个里边就是一个充分条件和必要条件哈。语法不好，口语很多语法错误怎么练？我觉得不要在于语法问题没讲。你要问我的话哈，你就先多说。其实最主要的点就是你要能够语言最主要的一个作用是在于沟通，是在于交流，所以只要别人能够理解你，那个是最重要的。Someone was asking me, a friend called Mei Jiang is asking me like, "Hey, I actually speak English, but somehow I have lots of grammar mistake. What can I do?" So the kind of suggestion I give is, first of all, do not pay a lot of attention to the grammar mistakes. Well, as a matter of fact, a lot of Americans or British or Australians, whatever, those native speakers, when they speak English, they also make a lot of grammar mistake. 老外本土人在讲话的时候，他都会犯很多语法的错误。OK， so it's more about whether you're willing to open your mouth and start talking. OK, I think the first thing for a lot of people here in China, if they want to practice their oral speaking ability, is more about increase and expand their vocabulary. 我觉得增长词汇量是最重要的。So if you could just, whenever you talk about something, you could think about this word to talk about and use that word. That is the most important thing. You're using all the right words, even though you're using the wrong grammar, other people can understand you. 你如果就是用的是对的词汇，然后你用的是错误的语法，别人也能够理解你，对吧？And then after that, the next step would also be about like, oh, okay, improving your grammar. So like, I guess like improving grammar, I do not know a lot of ways of just improving grammars. I mean, maybe when you just talk, you just think about, okay, so if I am talking about plurals. So that's why I'm using are instead of is, those kind of things. I do not pay a lot of attention to grammar myself as well. So from time to time, I would also notice like when I speak, there are also some grammar mistakes, but I just basically ignore them. As long as people could understand me, that is enough. One of the things you could potentially do, Meijiang, is just by I shared that before, just by watching those TV dramas, those English speaking TV dramas, and when those people in those TV dramas are speaking English, you just repeat whatever they speak. Okay, you just repeat whatever they speak. So say for example, a lot of Chinese people love to watch Friends, right? When Friends are there, they're just a very ordinary episode. When you notice, oh, Joey is talking, you just talk together with Joey. So you could also have English subtitles in there and just repeat after him. So that is how you're able to start to build this kind of a grammar sense. It is usually, for example, when you are like right now, for example, when I talk in English, I do not really pay a lot of attention to grammar. It's usually just comes out very naturally, like, oh no, okay, I know. So if I say this, okay, what's the word that comes next to it? I have this kind of sense. Okay, it's never about, oh, okay, I will still think about, oh, what is the right grammar, what is not grammar, right grammar, or in Chinese it is called 语感。OK，我觉得就是你比如说去看一些美剧啊，看一些英剧啊，你就跟着他一起去讲，在讲的过程当中，你就慢慢的会去培养这个语感。这个语感一旦出来了以后啊，后续你其实你不需要去想这个语法的问题，你自然就知道说，哦，我讲这个词后面应该跟的是哪一个词。自然而然就可以，对对对，就自然就可以把这个语言就组织出来了嘛。三米，就像这个方法可以去练哈，这样的话你其实就不需要太关注语法。我觉得英文的口语要变得好的最主要的一个点是在于说你要有足够多的词汇量，这个在我看来是最重要的。I think having enough vocabulary is considered to be the most important thing. You have enough vocabulary, you know what words means what, and when you want to express yourself, you can use the right words to express yourself. Even though you are using the wrong grammar, people know it. People know what you're saying, you're talking about. So in my opinion, vocabulary is the first important thing. If you want to practice your grammar, just like I said, just watch all those English drama, and when they are talking, you just repeat after them. And after a while, you start to cultivate this English sense 啊，你就会有这个英文语感。And then from that moment, no matter what you talk, the first word you talk about, then you immediately know what's the second word that comes after it, and you do not pay attention to grammar, and your grammar will be a lot better. Yeah，多背单词确实，多背单词是我的 secret。破产姐妹里边梗比较多，对我也挺喜欢看破产姐妹的那个时候，还挺搞笑的。OK，yeah, okay, guys, enough of this topic. I will just switch it back. Okay, so I was saying we were discussing about networking and career opportunities, and this is the very important reason why those a lot of the students would want to would be willing to just have very high student loan, etc., and just go to those elite schools that's charging extremely expensive tuition fee. Okay, yeah. So we were discussing about that. Again, guys, follow me, please. You haven't done so. I noticed that the speed of following people following me is relatively slow in here today. So, guys, for those of you who haven't followed me, don't forget to follow me. Okay, don't forget to follow me. For those of you who haven't followed, okay, yeah, and I'm also about to reach 55,000 followers very soon to reach 55,000 followers. And that is also another milestone. Okay, I have another milestone, which is halfway to 60,000 followers. So you guys, if any one of you guys can contribute and to become one of my followers to help me reach this 55,000 followers goal, that would be amazing. Okay. So follow me, please, if you haven't done so. There are over 100 people here in the live stream room. I'm pretty sure not every single one of you guys are following me. So if you haven't followed me, don't forget to follow me. Okay. Don't forget to follow me. Okay. So back to this topic we were discussing. Okay, we were discussing. So I was saying that it is really true that for those best employers, whether it's the kind of jobs in the finance industry, the kind of jobs in the tech industry, the kind of jobs in the law industry, right? I guess these three industries are basically the kind of industries that pays the most, right? Pays the best according to my knowledge. If you know there's any industry that pays actually higher than these three industries or equally high as these three industries, just tell me in the comments. Okay, just tell me in the comments. So I for sure, I come from the finance industry, so I for sure know that actually finance industry pays very decently. especially if you're able to get into the top-notch employers, top-notch banks, top-notch institutions, companies in the finance industry, then they pay absolutely a lot. And then same happens to a law firm, and also that happens to the tech company as well nowadays. Okay. So they also want to compete with each other to get the best talents. And one way to get best talents is by just paying enough money so that you attract those best talents. So I was saying that as so the moment I was able to get into one of those big companies, right, that pays a lot, and I noticed that the competition to get into those companies is very fierce. And the criteria to select who's able to get into this, the and the criteria to select who's able to get into these kind of companies is, first of all, they would notice the school name, the university brand name. Okay. So say for example, if the students graduate from a like okay level kind of university, then he or she then just has a way less chance of getting into those like big large conglomerate that pays a lot of money than those students who graduate from those extremely fancy schools, okay, like those Ivy League schools like MIT, Princeton, etc. So like by graduating from those elite schools, by those graduating from those like top-notch schools, as employers, they actually do feel like, oh, okay, this student must be quite amazing in order to get into those schools. So they actually have a higher chance of getting an interview opportunity. And also, since seeing the very good school name on this resume sort of also just make those employers feel that, okay, the student must be extraordinary, and somehow they have a higher chance. So for the same person, if they perform the very same in an interview, the person with a resume that has a big school brand name on it will have a higher chance of getting this job opportunity. So it is true, I can verify, okay, I can verify myself that school names actually matters. So that is also the reason why, like previously, I gave this advice that, okay, just go to the best school, and that the major comes next. I noticed back then in my years, there were some students actually pick the best major, but not the best schools. So eventually, what happened is once you graduated, nobody pays any attention to, oh, okay, your major, whatever, your major is ranking number one, etc. Majority of people would only pay attention to the school. So if you're talking about the worst major in one university, is actually better than the best major in another university that is actually not as good as this university. So that's the kind of advice I actually gave previously, right? So still the same. So I said that back then when I was working in that prestigious investment bank, when we were hiring, we actually look at the resume. We would actually pay special attention to the school name. So if the student actually graduates from the school that is like, oh, pretty okay, you haven't heard about it, that resume will basically just be thrown into the rubbish bin. Only students who graduate from, say, for example, MIT, Princeton, Harvard, Columbia, these elite Ivy school will get a chance to get into the interview. And then, of course, there are lots of torture in the interviews. This is no easy interview, right? Sometimes the employers will act extremely fierce. It was so funny that I remember back then I had some interviewers, and some interviews, when I really got into the bank, I noticed they are really, really kind and really, really nice. And somehow when they were in the interview, when they were interviewer, they acted like they're such a nasty person, a very rude person, just like that. And the reason why they did it is because they just wanted to test the students' ability to handle pressure. So that is called pressure test. And I did it as I like to do it as well. Okay. So I am definitely a very nice person, but when I am having an interview, I would also just appear to be very rude and very nasty. Sort of, I just want to see like what the students, what would the student be like whenever they're facing extreme pressure. Okay, something like that. So it is definitely not a very easy process to get into those kind of good jobs. Okay, but before that, you need to have a school name, a very good school name, in order to get an interview opportunity. And then there are many also other kind of things you need to go through in order to finally lock a position in those kind of companies. Okay, that is never easy. And I tell you what, even though those kind of jobs in those kind of large company pays you very well, we also shared it yesterday. I said, for example, for an entry level, for students who graduated from those top universities, the moment they got into those large banks, large kind of companies, I guess it's also the pretty same with those tech companies as well, right? So the moment they got into those kind of large companies, the annual salary is already almost like millions level in terms of renminbi. Okay, in terms of renminbi，就是可能你从名校毕业以后，你去到了这些非常厉害的公司，你可能起步的年薪就已经到100万了，很有可能你起步年薪就已经是100万级别了。Okay, so however, I have also have to say that yeah, shouldn't the interview be two ways, or is that a Western idea? Desma, you are right. Interview is two ways. I completely agree with you, Desma. The problem is that when you're talking about those large companies that pays a lot of money, a lot of salaries, so many people. There are 1,000 people out there just competing for one position. You could say, oh, it's a two-way interview, but you could also say that it is a one-way interview when it is a position with 1,000, more than 1,000 applicants, right? They are the, they're just like the one with privilege, right? The employer is the one with privilege. Okay, so it is a two-way interview. Yeah, yes, I interview in a way. You also interview me back. If you do not like me, if you not like this position, you can just go. There are plenty of others I can pick from, right? It is a two-way interview, you're right. But when you're given this kind of you know it's almost like it's also very similar, like you're just buying a product, right? So you say that, hey, yeah, as a consumer, you're buying products from someone. If there are like too many people, there are just, well, usually you say like consumer is the god, right? 消费者是上帝, consumers are the god. Okay, so as a seller, you have to just make buyer to be happy and sort of like that, right? However, when things happens, like when you have like so many so many buyers and there's only one single supplier, right? What happens is that this is never a two-way thing. It is just always a one-way thing. Do you agree, Desma? Do you agree with Desma? It is true that for those kind of those positions in those like large investment bank, every year they would receive over 1,000, definitely over thousands of applicants, resumes applying for those kind of jobs. They're only picking just like a few, really a few, just less than 10 or just a dozen, or sometimes even like two or three, less than five, those kind of number of applicants out of a thousand, over thousands of resumes. So, like, you could say, yeah, it is a two-way interview, but it's never a two-way interview. So they could just be very arrogant and pick ever whoever they want. I also have noticed in some of those kind of okay, they would see like, oh, you know what? This year I was allocated to be the person in charge of those recruitment. And I would do one thing, which is, since I can pick whoever comes to do the internship and everyone seems to be so talented. So the first thing I would notice is whether this girl is look as good looking or not. So they actually judge the face as well. That is so nasty, the face and body. So I noticed there's one year, like for example, in a certain bank, and I noticed in a certain team, they had this like two male like recruiter as two male employee to be the recruiter in charge of the recruiter, and sort of they just discussed internally and say that, okay, so since we are in charge and we just want to make this summer our time, so why don't we just hire students who are talented, who are hardworking, but at the same time very good looking. So the very next thing happened is during that summer, all the interns inside that team is all gorgeous girls, like girls who are tall, very slim, hot bodies, good face, everything. Well, of course, I mean, like for all the male employers, so they're very happy, like very super, exactly, so superficial, right? Oh, they're very happy, and because every day they were surrounded by extremely young girls, who are like really good looking but also very talented, right? And also because they also wanted to get a return offer after this internship, so they would just do a lot of things to make those male employers to be happy, right? So I feel that to be quite nasty because that is so unfair. That is so unfair, right? But that is sort of the case. So that is why, like later on, when I just gave some, although some people just come over to me and ask for some interview advice, and apart from all the advice I gave several days before, which is about how you need to prepare thoroughly, you have to practice a lot, you have to do a lot of mock interviews. So one extra advice I gave to them is just to dress yourself up. Dress yourself up, just to find a very expensive hair salon and just ask a very good Tony, a very good barber, to design a very good hairstyle for you and try to learn how to do makeup. Just dress yourself up. because by being good looking, that is actually also a very important thing. Because you never know what kind of employers you would come across, right? If you come across an employer like that, super superficial and also very nasty, like you just have to do that, right? Sort of things like that. And also after you get into, so finally after the really fierce competition of seeing like if you're smart, if you are good at talking, expressing yourself, and also like if you're good looking as well, right? I don't judge that myself when I interview people. I judge a lot of other things considered to be more important, right? As long as this person is neat, that is enough, right? It doesn't need to be like, oh, very handsome, whatever, you know. I pay attention to a lot of many other things like pressure, whether you're able to handle pressure, you know, those kind of things. So afterwards, you know, once they are able to get into those positions into large banks, that pays a really big salary. 听不懂的话，宝宝可以这样子可以下载一个 APP 叫讯飞听见这个是之前有在直播间的这个粉丝建议的讯飞听见，然后下载完了以后，你可以打开它，这样屏幕上面就会有中文字幕，我讲英文的时候，OK。And also for those of you who haven't followed me, don't forget to follow me, OK？没有关注的宝宝可以关注一下，OK。So for those of you who haven't followed me, don't forget to follow me and just keep on tapping the screen to sending likes. Keep on tapping the screen to sending likes. Whenever you guys tap the screen to sending likes, I could see all those very cute emojis come in here. I really like they're having all those lovely emojis like the broccolis, the sunflowers, and those little hearts and clouds. Oh, love all of them. Yeah. Yeah, they hire male and female at same ratio. Are you asking me, Mark, or are you not? But the good-looking people are always appealing if they are in the same talent. Is that is also true? Don't talk. That is also true when you have like two same people and one is like same level of talentedness, like they are like equal smart, but the one with better looking is you know have a higher chance of getting a job. So as a person who's considered to be relatively quite good looking, so I do sort of I admit that I do have this kind of privilege. I admit that you know from time to time I get those kind of privilege. Yeah. So Mark, your question. So you're asking whether they hire people at male and female at the same ratio. Um okay, so as long as you're able to maintain this ratio to be not too unbalanced, there is no like very strict criteria when it comes to you must have like 1 to 1 kind of same very same ratio. It's usually like, oh, okay, it's definitely okay for you to do like 60%, 40%, something like that. As long as it's not like too not balanced, that is fine. So I would also know that like if you're hiring like entire crew to be like female interns, that's not okay. Okay, that's gender discrimination. Or like entire crew is like male, that is not okay. But as long as there are some males, some females, it's a mix. Or even if the majority are females, that is actually fine, right? So basically, that what they happened that year is they hire a lot of girls, like very good looking. Also some guys as well, right? But majority are girls, but like very good looking. So that's what I heard. Okay, that's what I heard about that team. Okay. Yeah. So talking back, I was basically saying that um, so after all those kind of kids, they have gone through very intense interviews, right? First of all, they have to get into the universities and then the intense interview. And finally, was able to get into those large banks or large companies, no matter it's tech companies or law companies or like finance companies, right? That's pays you a lot. The first thing they need to face is really extremely big pressure. Extremely big pressure. I tell you, the pressure level is insane. Is insane. So I remember because out of college, out of university, I was considered to be the kind of top students already, right? I said that when in my senior high school, I was considered to be the top students, and then in my university, I was top students, and later on, got into the master degree. After graduation from master degree, I got into the best bank, one of the best banks, and then I tell you, you know, pressure was insane. So before going to that bank, and I actually did an internship in another investment bank, okay, in another investment bank. I was, you know, how about the pay? Is it balanced too? What do you mean? Can you elaborate a bit more? What do you mean by how about the pay? Is it balanced? Balanced to what? Balanced to what? Okay. Yeah. So the pressure was insane. Okay. So even for someone as someone who's really good at handle pressure, I still consider the pressure to be quite insane. So I remember there was a TV series called Wall Street Interns or something. If you guys haven't watched it, you guys could actually check the very first two episodes. It was, oh my god, it's really really vivid. So I remember there was a TV series called Wall Street Interns or something. If you guys haven't watched it, you guys could have kind of floors in those kind of banks. So the pressure was insane. So I also share with you guys like I am a very good girl. Okay, I am a very good girl in the terms that I'm not the kind of girl who would just drink, smoke, or just clubbing a lot, party a lot, those kind of girl. Okay. However, back then when I my during my very first 2 years, especially during that period of internship, I actually party every single weekend. Just went to clubbing and just get drunk and just party the whole night out because I do need that as way to release all the stress. I do need that to release all the stress. When you're shouting, when you're drinking, when you're just in those kind of clubs with all the lights on and you're just dancing, sweating, you just forgot about the stress. And that is and also when the music was so loud, when you scream, nobody hears you, right? And so basically you just do all the kind of things inside the club just to release all this kind of pressure. And then afterwards just sleep the whole day very next day and just keep on working in the office in the weekend and the rest of the week. So the pressure was very intense. I have to say because I also said share with you guys after working in those large investment bank for a few years, I quit it because I wanted to pursue a new kind of career, right? And then that's why that now I have become entrepreneur. And then I have also say that so before becoming an entrepreneur, I also joined a startup company. So I was really able to compare the kind of you know job environment in those large companies. I have to say, first of all, the people in there are very, relatively speaking quite decent. Do you also do live streaming in weekend? Little flower on Saturday, yes. On Sunday, no. On Saturday, yes. So just so you guys know, I usually would do live stream from 7:30 to 9:30 a.m. China time from Monday to Saturday. Okay, and I would take a day off on Sunday. So Monday to Saturday, 7:30 to 9:30 a.m. China time. Okay, and then Sunday I will take a day off. So that's the usual time. So when it's 7:30 for all the foreign friends, 7:30 is 1 hour before now. So usually I would do a live stream I would start a live stream 1 hour before now and end live stream 1 hour after now. Okay, so that's the normal period of time I would have my live stream. And I would do live stream from Monday to Saturday. So for those of you who haven't followed me, don't forget to follow me, okay? Don't forget to follow me if you haven't done so. And we're about to reach 55,000 followers very soon. So if you guys are很给力哈，中文叫很给力。If you guys are following enough, then potentially we'll be able to reach 55,000 followers just by today. Okay. So everyone, please contribute by following me. And if you have already followed, you could also do one thing, which is join my team by clicking this heart button here. And also, you could also just keep on tapping the screen to send in links. Keep on tapping tapping the screen to send in links. Okay. Okay, so back to this topic. I was also saying that the pressure to work to start your career, those large investment bank that pays you a lot of money is actually really stressful. It's really stressful. So I remember back then when I was doing internship, I actually interned in a department that is called sales and trading. Okay, sales and trading. So inside, okay, so I could also elaborate more for those of you who are not familiar with the structure of investment bank. Usually, for a large investment bank, there are three major departments. Okay. So the first department is investment bank division. Okay. So that is the department that is responsible for doing IPOs or merger or acquisitions. And that is the department that would do all the financials. Oh, okay, if there's a company that says that I want to be listed in NASDAQ, in New York Stock Exchange or Hong Kong Stock Exchange, they must find a very professional investment bank for them to do every application procedure and also to do an evaluation, like what the price should I set when my company gets listed. Or fortunately, you quit the job. Otherwise, you don't have such excellent live stream. Yeah, thank you, No Talk. That is also true. Yeah. And also, like for example, if there's a company that wants to acquire some company, they want to do some merger acquisition, they would also call to an investment bank. An investment bank would also do one thing. They would actively going out to seek for some like potential targets for them to acquire or potential targets that can acquire them, something like that. So investment bank is more like a middleman. Investment bank division, or in short term IBD, is a like a middleman kind of role. Okay, so that is the first division, and there's a second division called sales and trading. Okay, so sales and trading is the department that does all kind of brokerage job. Okay, so every day, when you wake up, you will notice, oh, okay, the stock market is open, right? And there will be a lot of sellers and buyers, right? So when you do all those like stock selling and buying, you would just go to where you would maybe use an app, right? So the app will help you to place trades and also executes all the trades, out all the trades, and then you're able to buy a stock or not, right? However, when it comes to those big institutions, not like us individuals, like those large like hedge funds, those large institutions, when they place orders, they place big amount of orders, right? And how to place that orders without really affecting the market, there are some skills behind that. And also they would come up with all sorts of different derivatives, right? For those of you who do not know what derivatives is, so that basically is something, for example, for ordinary people, we could just buy a stock or sell a stock. That's basically it. So what they do is they design those derivatives so that when you purchase stock, you could enjoy the upside of the stocks without, losing any downsides. You could also think about it as a way of they would design all sorts of kind of structures that allowed you to purchase the kind of returns you want on top of certain stocks. Okay, so that is kind of things they would do for this kind of department that is called sales and trading. So usually there would also be another department called research inside sales and trading. So sometimes you would also call it sales and trading and research. So you would notice a lot of bank would issue those research reports on certain stocks. That is done by this department. Okay, sales and trading and research. Okay, so that is the second very big you know department. And so there's also a third department that is called asset management. So asset management is usually like when a lot of you guys would buy certain funds, right? Some mutual funds. And oh, that is like, oh, you buy this fund and this fund will invest in a bunch of different stocks, something like that. So that is asset management department. Okay. So these are the three departments that is usually inside a large investment bank. So back then when I did internship, I actually interned in the sales and trading department. And so one of the things with sales and trading department is that you have to get up extremely early, okay? Because you have to prepare yourself before the market is open. So we usually just get up really early in the morning and just go to work at around 6 o'clock a.m., 7 o'clock in the a.m. But of course, we also get off work early as well, right? So relatively speaking, and for the IBD division, for the very first division I said that does like IPOs and merger acquisition, their interns just do not sleep at all. They have to work till at least 3 a.m. in the morning, sometimes even later, and then go back home and just sleep a little bit while, just go back to work again. Go back to work again. So I remember so vividly, it was so funny that back then during that summer doing internship, because I was in the sales and trading department. So that's why I got to work very early in the morning, right? I reached the office at 6 a.m., 7 a.m. in the morning, and I just come across a colleague, intern colleague from the IBD department that just got off work for that day. So he worked till 6 a.m., 7 a.m. in the morning. And that is the moment when he needs to go back to the hotel to just get a shower, to get redressed, and come back to the office at around 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. and restart working again. And so the moment he got off his work is the moment I started my day of work. When you have no time to sleep at all for a job, then that pressure is definitely going to be big, right? So that's why I said like back then I remember seeing this watching this TV series that's called, I forgot about this name, but the name sort of is called like Wall Street Intern or something, or Wall Street Life or whatever. This is definitely related to something called Wall Street, something like that. Okay. And then it was so funny that when I watched the first two episodes, I was like, oh my God, this is so true. Whatever is described in this TV series is so true. So like what those investment bank would do is that they would first of all just hire some people, not a lot. I said that every year there would be 1,000 people applying for the same job, right? And then they would pick, for example, a dozen of people to intern in their department. And out of those a dozen of students, then they don't only pick maybe like less than 5 people to just give them return offer to stay on the floor to be their full-time staff. So that is actually 你说话有点像特朗普，应该不像吧？绝对不像，好吗？That is actually really, really fierce competition. So that is why that you would also notice one thing that inside those interns, there's some tension. You would also notice like interns are actually, competing with interns. There are some very ugly things that's going on inside the interns, right? I remember inside that TV series, that's Wall Street something kind of a TV series. I remember there is a kid inside that TV series. So he just wanted to demonstrate to all the people inside the team that he's so excellent. So he basically did not sleep at all. And there's also a specific word called FaceTime. So basically means that, okay, no matter you have job or not, you just have to be there, stay there like 24 hours. And then as long as there are someone who asks you for help, you could just appear immediately. That is called FaceTime. So he said that, okay, I need to just have enough FaceTime in the office. So basically he did not sleep at all. And also like you are human beings. There's no way for you to not sleep at all, right? You just need to take rest. Otherwise your body will not function. So in order to help his body function, he takes this certain kind of pills that could just keep himself energized, and even though he did not sleep, he could still be awake. Just keep on working, something like that. Just keep on eating that, and also eating that. He also continues to want another crazy thing is that he would also go to the gym to work out. And just so you guys know, like working out culture is very, very kind of popular in the finance industry. Like everyone feels like, okay, I work very hard. I also need to exercise and work out hard as well. So sort of like that. So what happened later on for that kid inside that TV series? I'm talking about TV series, okay? So inside that TV series is that okay? That kid look work out, did not sleep, and take those kind of pills and somehow stimulate the blood veins, just keep the body energized. And eventually what happened is the other day when he was in the toilet, he passed out. And later on what happened is he just died. Every single year, almost every single year, literally every single year, you would hear news that some interns or some juniors or some seniors, whatever, there's a person who works in those large investment banks died. They did not die because they are having some illness or they have been having some disease for a long time. They simply just died because of like out of sudden, like out of nowhere, just all of a sudden they just died. For example, they were running. I remember in my year, I seriously remember during my year of internship, I seriously remember this news about a kid, 23-year-old, okay, interning in a bank. And there was morning, he was basically working out in a gym, running on a running machine. And the very next moment, like he just all of a sudden fell and then just passed away. You hear those kind of stories almost every single year because I tell you what, so those kind of jobs, they are really stressful. So it was usually after the first year or 2 years that you really get used to the pressure, first of all. And the second is that you have a really steep learning curve, especially for the first and second year, right? You just need to really push yourself to learn as much as possible and to improve as much as possible. You get very used to the fast pace in this office. And second, you are very familiar with all the daily kind of work. And then third is that you are very used to those kind of pressure environment. Then you no longer feel the very stress kind of environment. Okay, you no longer feel this kind of very stressful environment. So that's actually the case. So that's why like I was able to work inside those kind of bank for a very long time. And also become you when you become senior, you could actually just throw all those dirty works to those like juniors. And then there are a lot of juniors to help you to do all those kind of stuff that you do not want to do. So that's also another reason that when you goes up, the stress will become a little bit less than the kind of stress you would face when you first entered those large kind of banks, especially those top-notch bank. Okay, especially those top-notch bank. So that is actually the kind of story. Okay, so everything actually pays off. Okay, I said that. So everything, well, actually not everything pays off. I was basically saying that everything has a reason. So the back in the days when we were doing interns, the salary for interns was pretty high as well. Okay, I remember Mark asked this question: does the pay also justify the pressure? Is that what you were asking? yeah, sorry, I was always talking about the stuff I was talking about. I actually was not reading the common area, but I guess like you were asking, like, what about the pay? Is the pay, does the pay justify the level of stress, right? The pay, like I said, is very decent. Like I said, like I shared multiple times before in my live stream, right? For a top-notch student, top-notch university graduates, the moment he got into those large banks in the very first year, there's a very high likelihood that he might be able to get an annual salary that is very close to 1 million renminbi, renminbi Hong Kong dollars, or even like more than that, um, for the very first year. So the salary definitely is very high, definitely is very high, but also on the condition that you'll be able to handle that kind of level of stress. Okay, you just need to handle that. Oh, you're asking about the male or female pay is equal. For entry level, yes. For entry level, definitely yes. For entry level, male female pay is definitely equal, and also when you got promoted, the pay is also quite equal. However, it's usually when you go up, you will notice actually some of the males, they get higher chance of getting promoted than females. So when you go to higher, senior, then you will notice like there are more male leaders than female leaders. That just happens everywhere, not only in those banks, but also in other areas as well. Yeah. So that's the kind of case. Okay. So if you guys have any other questions, just send it in here in the comment area. Okay. Just send it in here in the comment area. Okay. Yeah. So I remember back then when I was doing this internship, like, oh, so stressful every single day. I was basically a fresh graduate who hasn't been to any jobs before. I had no expectation of what kind of jobs I would be facing, right? And the job itself is pretty tough. It was like the workload is heavy, and on top of that, it was not like simple work. It was kind of complicated work, and also the work itself is like not easy, right? You have to use your maths to do all the calculation, etc., to do the pricing, and also you also need to learn how to use the kind of system inside those banks. That was not very easy. It was not very easy. So that's why like every single day faced with extreme pressure. So I remember I was discussing with another intern who later on become my best friend. Okay, best friend forever. So like she was saying that, oh, you know what? Now I think that the reason why, so for those celebrities who are earning a lot of money, for sure they are facing lots of pressure themselves as well. Like there's no way for you to just earn a very high salary but live in a very relaxing kind of life. So it is a very fair life since we're earning a very high salary for our internship. So that is why that we're facing such a high amount of pressure. Now, when we look at celebrities who are earning a lot of money, we no longer feel very jealous, right? Because we feel that, oh, okay, the reason why they're able to earn a lot of salaries, a lot of money, is also because they are facing a lot of pressure. So we feel like, oh, this world is fair. The reason why we earn a lot is because we have a lot of pressure. So for them to earn a lot of money, they must also face a lot of pressure as well. Something like that. Yeah. So we were actually saying that. I still remember that summer, that internship. It was pretty funny. But later on, when I really got into a bank and got this full-time role, become a full-time staff, so the first 2 years is especially the first 1 year, actually the first 1 year is very stressful. However, after you have learned all the things, you can start to do everything. You're very familiar with everything. The stress becomes a lot less, but still it's still very high stress. It's just like less than the kind of stress level you would have to bear when the moment you first got into the bank. Right. So that's basically the story. Yeah, that's basically the story. So the reason why we were talking about that is because we were saying that, okay, why those kind of students would be very willing to pay extremely high tuition fee to get into those big schools, big brand schools, because only by getting into those big brand schools would they have an opportunity to get an interview opportunity in those really good employers who pays really good money, right? Of course, we later on say that that is continue going to be a very big competition, because every single year for every position inside those banks, they probably would receive over thousands of resumes, and they're just only going to pick a dozen of people out of thousands of applicants. And then the dozen people are only going to just be an interns, right? They have to perform very well in order to survive and just get a return offer. So the ratio is like 1/1,000. to get a very good job inside those kind of large banks, front office kind of roles, and to stay there and work. Yeah. Shanghai Bank, same as Wall Street? No, no. Shanghai Banks is, I consider that to be, I think, easier than Wall Street. I don't think that is going to be the same level of stress and the same level of competitiveness. But also at the very same time, the pay is way, way, way less here in those Shanghai banks compared to those Wall Street. Yeah, yeah. That's a very good question. If the West adopted the Gaokao, do you think it would change? Um, Change one, Desma. You have to tell me, like, do you think it would change? Do you think, like, are you saying that it would the Gaokao itself would change, or are you saying that it will change something? Yeah, could you please elaborate a bit more about this question? I could feel this is a very good question, but somehow I need you to elaborate a bit more on that so that I could the benefit of wealth. Oh, okay. So if the West adopted Gaokao, do you think it would change the benefit of the wealth? Yeah, for sure, for sure. But that is also on the condition about how you want to charge the tuition fee, right? So even though you have Gaokao to select all the talents just purely based on the scores, however, if you still have like an extremely high tuition fee for those elite schools, then like for students like myself, right? For say, for example, if I am able to score really high in Gaokao, still I would not be able to get into those universities because my family would not be able to afford that large sum of money I need to pay to attend those kind of universities. Gaokao is university entrance examination here in China. We call it Gaokao. We call it Gaokao. Also, there's a very big debate around whether Gaokao is good or not, because there's also one more thing, which is that also ties back to the education mentality, okay? Our understanding about education. So I have also discussed before about the difference between the education system of the education system between the East and West. So, for example, here in China, a lot of the criticism around the education system here in China is it is what we call 填鸭式教育. What it means is that we just tell the students what is the right answers to every questions. We do not intrigue all the students to think about what might be the good answers, what might be the answers they consider to be correct, and there is no right and wrong answers, right? Here, there in the West, I remember before when I first started a live stream, there was a senior high school teacher in here who's an American in here shared with me about like how she teaches the students there in her job. So like she said that in their school system, in their education system, like in the West, that they do not tell students what is right and what is wrong. The students have to figure out what is right and wrong themselves. So instead of just telling students, right, oh, this is the right answer, they would say that, okay, what do you think is the right answer? So those kind of are the very different kind of mentality. So that's why like when we were discussing about education system here in China, a very commonly seen kind of topic is that we would say that, oh, okay, we need to learn from the West because in the West the students appear to be more creative than the kind of students here in China. And the reason behind why they can be so creative is because of this education system. The education system encourages all the students to just practice their imagination and practice their creative thinking. So they are encouraged to think, to come up with some new ideas and to practice it and to do it. And also, in nursing exams, you have best, better, good, bad choices. Uh-huh. Yeah. And also I remember also seeing one thing from social media and also in TV series, which is like you guys are when you were small, when you were little, you were asked to do those kind of science homework, which is ask you to build something. Right? I saw like a lot of kids would build a volcano or build different kind of things. So that is like the kind of things you need to build in your science kind of course, right? So nowadays in China, we're encouraging more and more education like that, right? We also started to encourage students to to do those kind of homework that would practice their imagination, practice their creative thinking. However, I remember when I was little, okay, when I was little, the kind of education system was basically just telling me, oh, okay, this is the exams you need to attend because that is going to be the very same exams that you would need to attend in the college entrance examination in Gaokao. So that is why, like here, this is the right answer, this is the right, is that is wrong. It is really till this moment, when I really grow up and when I become an adult, when I have really experienced a lot of things and really started to develop my independent thinking a lot, practice my independent thinking a lot, did I start to realize that there's not really a lot of right and wrongs in this world. There is not a absolutely right way of doing something, and an absolutely right way of a lot of things. Okay, maybe in the nursing exam, like Desma you said, there is some best practice, like the very right thing to do. However, here, like in our everyday life, there is just no right thing. Like, oh, even like when it comes to philosophy, I remember back then in my years there in our politics class. I guess that's also the reason why I was extremely bad at that lesson. Okay, at that course, I remember so clearly that the teacher just said that, okay, this one philosophy is the absolute correct philosophy. So when I really grew up, when I really had this independent thinking, when I really have seen this world, witnessed so many things, and really read so many books, I noticed that there is no such thing that is called that, oh, this philosophy is the absolutely correct truth. That saying is so wrong. That saying is so wrong, right? How come there is one philosophy that is considered to be the absolutely correct one, right? That is almost like brainwash, right? So you have like different kind of philosophers come across different philosophies and different theories, right? You just need to compare different theories. And the reason why we have all those philosophy is actually help people to understand better about this world, to understand better about themselves. Whichever philosophy is considered to be a better way for you to understand this world and understanding about yourself, should just consider to be the kind of philosophy you want to study, you want to believe in. There's nothing that is called, oh, this is a philosophy that is, just accurate, that is absolutely correct, absolutely truth in any kind of occasions for any people. That is so wrong. But that is the kind of education system back then we had. Like, we were told, like, okay, there's only one correct answer to this kind of question. Now I feel like I'm very proud that I'm not so good at Chinese. I'm not so good at those like liberal art track of courses, because those are the kind of tracks that's usually do not have that absolute right answer. Okay, so I also remember back then, right, for example, for our Chinese lessons, so they would ask you to write an essay, right, during those exams, or they would give you a paragraph and ask you to just elaborate what's the meaning behind those kind of paragraph. What is this poet is trying to convey? What is this writer trying to express by writing this sentence? And there is always an accurate standard answer behind that. But the truth is, right nowadays, I feel like, even though I'm not really good at, I'm actually quite poor at Chinese, at those kind of liberal art kind of courses. But when I really grow up, I like reading, right? The reason why I'm able to share a lot of stuff with you guys is simply because I am able to read a lot of books and I have quite some knowledge base in my stomach. So that's why I'm able to share a lot of things with you guys, right? I do enjoy reading. And I'll also notice one thing after started to read a lot of stuff, and you would also discuss what the kind of things you read inside those books and start to discuss with others about the kind of concepts, the kind of knowledge, and kind of stories that you see, you read inside those books. And you also would notice one thing, which is everyone's understanding about very single book is so, so, so different. Right? For example, let's just say a novel. There are so many characters inside a novel. When different people read this novel, people would have different ideas and different impressions on different characters inside this novel. I might like this person and someone else will like that person. And the kind of conclusions you get from reading the very same book can be so, so, so different. I remember there is a book called 月亮与六便士. What's this English name for that? 月亮与六便士这个 The Moon and Sixpence. 月亮与六便士的英文是什么？与六便士这本书的英文名 Yeah, let's see. 月亮与六便士的英文名 I'm actually asking DeepSeek, okay? What's the name for that book? Yeah, it's The Moon and Sixpence, right? I'm right about that. Yeah, so I have read The Moon and Sixpence. I still remember there is a celebrity actually shared about his understanding about this book, The Moon and Sixpence, right? And then somehow, you know, um, he said something. I really forgot. And then I said like, oh, okay, is that what you read? I actually commented in the comment area. I said like, what I got is that. So he said, okay, this is the kind of conclusion I got. So he shared like, oh, this. I said, oh, I didn't feel that at all. In the comment area, I said, I didn't feel that at all. What I get is blah blah blah. And that celebrity actually really replied to me, and he said something that I totally agree. He said, okay, different people, when you read the very same book, you will come up with different conclusions, right? So later on, I also noticed that this when I started to read more books and also discuss with other friends. And you would also notice one thing, which is that in your different life stage, even the very same book, when you're in your teens, when you're in your 20s, when you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, at different stage of your life, when you read the very same book, you will come up with different conclusions. Do you guys agree with it? Do you guys agree with it? For those of you who agree with it, type one, okay? Let's have more interaction. Let's have more interaction. For those of you who agree with what I just said, type one in the comment area, okay? I was saying that for different people, even we are reading the very same book, different people will come up with different conclusions. And the second thing I said, that even for the very same person in your different ages, in your teens, in your 20s, the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, different age, after you experience different kind of things, when you read the very same book, you would also come with different conclusions, right? So I guess that's the reason why I was so poor at Chinese and those all those like politics and all those like liberal art track kind of courses, is simply because they always have a standard answer for every question. But as a matter of fact, that those kind of things should never have a standard answer, right? For example, when usually a very typical kind of question they would ask in the Chinese exams, that they would ask you, okay, they give you a paragraph and they ask you, oh, what is this poet or what is this writer trying to express by writing in such a way? And you would have to give an answer like, what do you think is the right way? And then you would also see, oh, okay, at the end, what's the answer, right? And then sort of there is a standard answer. They would say that, okay, this writer is writing this because he or she wants to express this kind of feeling. To be honest, right now I'm thinking like, wow, really, really, maybe the author, him or herself, would not really agree with this kind of standard answer. Usually, if I say, for example, if I am the author, if I am an author writing the book, I do not want everyone to get the very same kind of answer from the book I write. I would want different people to get different kind of things from reading my book, right? So when there is a standard answer, it sort of just limits people's imagination. You just always want to think. And sometimes like the reason why I was so bad at Chinese back then is because I never really able to understand like why this thing could only come to this kind of like meaning alone, because there's so many other ways to elaborate it, right? So I do not understand the link. Then what can I do is I just recite all the answers. 我只能死记硬背，因为我完全不能理解，我不能理解，I could not understand, so that's why I have to recite. 懂中文哈，皮皮宝刚才讲的中文，OK。And then what happens is that if I can only recite, I do not understand, then as a result, I do not able to score high in those exams. That's literally what happened, right? So that is the kind of pitfall, those kind of disadvantages about the education system in here. So that's why I also say that, okay, we try to be fair, but sometimes that is too fair. When you have that to be too fair, then sort of like, okay, everyone just want to focus on it, is only testing everyone the very same skill, which is, oh, whoever is able to recite the right answer, who give the right answer, who has the best skills at finishing those exams, writing the exam answers. And that is the only single thing that we are going to judge the people. That is very fair, right? But sort of you are not just cultivating people in a very well-rounded manner. We could also chime a little bit in back to the history, right? So in Qing Dynasty, sort of like all the students, if they want to get a spot in the government system, in Chinese we call it 官场 朝廷. 朝廷 is the kind of the government system back then. Okay, so just so you guys know, for all the students, if they want to get into 朝廷, then they have to participate in an exams, We just ask them to write an essay, and the essay is usually about their opinion about this country. What are the policies they think this country should do, something like that. Okay. And there must be a specific format they need to write their essay in. 八股文 just because of that, everyone is basically practicing their ability to write 八股文, the specific format. And nowadays, when we look back, we actually criticize that a lot. We were saying by writing everything just in the very same format, you are limiting those kind of students like creative thinking ability. So that's why like you're only able to hire people who have very single mindedness kind of people in there. Yeah. So enough about here. So we're gonna go back to talk about the Western kind of education system. Okay, we can actually have some discussions. Yeah, not arguing but discussing different POVs. Yeah, I guess in the West we really do benefit from arguing our point. I agree, Desma. I agree. I completely agree. So that's why, like, I also say that I noticed one thing. For example, in the university, in the elite school universities in the West and elite universities in the East, I remember back then I was doing my exchange program in the US. One of the culture shock I had was when I was in the class, there were some scores inside the class that was specifically was about whether you're able to raise your hand and ask questions and participate in the discussions. They really, really encourage you to voice out your opinions and really like really encourage you to just speak up in the class. And so, sort of like here in Asia and China in our university, basically all the students just like very stay very silent, just listen to the teacher. Whatever teacher says, they just take. Okay, whatever the teachers say, they just take. But in the West, what they do is they encourage you to speak up. And but of course afterwards I also said one thing, like the very first moment when I got there and started studying in the exchange program in UT Austin, I noticed, wow, there's so many people, you guys are amazing. Like how come you guys have so many opinions to share in the classroom and you guys are so brave to speak up, to just talk and raise your hand to start to talk. That was really a culture shock to me, and I feel a little bit stressful because I feel like everyone is like raising their hand and talk. And also, the teacher has said specifically that I need you to raise your hand to express your opinion. There will be some TA, teaching assistant, out there to record who actually asked this question, who actually is on, talked in the class. And then at the end of the year, we are gonna just calculate how many times you guys raise your hand and express your view. And for those people who raise their hands more, they will have a higher score. And those people who are staying silent in the class will have less score, something like that. That is definitely a culture shock to me. Okay, that is definitely a culture shock to me. Why I can say some long sentence? How to say long sentence? How to improve that? Just practice, I guess. Nothing more, just practice. And that was really, yeah, just like Mark said, simple is always better. Kind of students raised their hand, they were called by the teacher. I was basically just rolling my eyes. It was like, oh, him again. I'm gonna waste my another 5 minutes. Nonsense, always like that. Yeah, yeah. So there's also like, good and bads around, the very same thing. So when people over explain, I tend to ignore. Yeah. So teachers' pets. Yeah. So, however, you could see there is like a very big difference between the East and West education, right? Here in the East, it's always about like students quiet and take. And there's some standard answer. There's something like we need to just improve. Oh, everyone just fill in the exams and give the same answers. It's more about obedience, whether you're able to obey, those kind of things. And here it's always about law, always about law and order. It's always about order. Um, following the rules. Here, there in the West, it's more around, okay, I want you guys to just speak up. I want you guys just to be you and just tell me what you're thinking, something like that. Yeah. Hi, native English speaker. Nytrix, love to listen to your intense tone English. So overseas, are you saying you are a native speaker or are you saying I am native speaker? So I'm not a native speaker, okay, my friend. I'm not a native English speaker. I'm native Chinese speaker, okay. 中文母语好，英文是第二语言，英文不是母语，英文不是母语，OK。中文讲得更好，英文所以你会发现，you will notice like when I speak English from time to time, there would also be some words I do not know how to speak, and I would ask people in here to help me with that, to help me find this word. So yeah, yeah. Uh, I admire Louis' capacity to synthesize and deliver a few phrases learned from her. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So that's why like I say like you notice the difference between the East and Western education system. So that's why coming back to this question where Desma asked me, okay, when Desma asked me like, hey, if you think Western world has Gaokao, like would it change the wealth, etc., right? So we're gonna just come back to this question and elaborate more detailed on this question, which I consider to be a very good question. Okay, is first of all, I do not think that in the Western system they would have gaokao, because gaokao is not perfect. It is not perfect. It has lots of like pitfalls, like I just said. Like it has its own weakness as well, right? So when it comes to the Western system, because Western education system really encourage people to just be very creative, and somehow like encourage them to think about the right answers rather than just tell them what are the right answers. So sort of the in that kind of system, it is quite impossible to adopt a system just like Gaokao. Okay. And even if they have the kind of system of Gaokao, so to select of the students just based on how high they score in their exams, the very next thing is that students will still not able to get into those high university as long as they are charging extremely expensive tuition fee. Yeah, in the US there is SAT and ACT. There are SAT and ACT, right? Yes. So for SAT and ACT, there are standard answers. For SAT and ACT, that's true. However, usually there is just a threshold. As long as you pass this threshold, the rest is not dependent on like how high you are able to score. So, for example, for my master degree, I have to do I have to attend exams called GMAT, right? The GMAT. So as long as I remember for a lot of business schools, as long as you're above the score of 700, back then I did 740. Well, as a matter of fact, I consider myself able to get a score that's higher than 750. But unfortunately, I got too nervous during the exam. So that's why I'm only able to score 740. But that is already a pretty high score. Okay, that is already a pretty high score. But the thing is that for a majority of the business school, as long as you're able to reach like 700, or for some schools even like 670 is enough. Okay, it's enough. The rest is never about how high you're able to score in your SAT, in your ACT, in your GMAT, in your GRE. It's all about the rest of the stuff. It's all about whether you're writing a very good personal essay about yourself, whether you're able to perform good in the interview. Oh, what are the things you're proving to the admission committee that you are very qualified to be admitted to their school, apart from the fact you're able to score high in the exams? So that is more important than just the score alone. Okay, so that is why we say that in the Western system, they would first of all definitely also ask you to attend exams, but the exam is not a single important thing. So there's a certain threshold. As long as you reach that score, you're qualified for the next round, and that next round is considered to be more important. And they will judge you by so many different perspectives to see whether you're qualified or not. So that is the Western system, right? They want to hire, recruit students with a more well-rounded kind of abilities rather than only the ability to score high in the exams. Okay, yeah, and guys, follow me please if you haven't done so. If you haven't done so, okay, yeah. So yeah, we actually have talked so many things else. Again, we need to go back. Okay, we need to go back, which is like we still haven't really finished about talking about like why those schools are charging extremely high tuition fee, right? So we're only reaching the point four, which is networking and career opportunities. And also the fifth reason is research and institutional costs. So these universities conduct groundbreaking research, requires massive funding for labs, equipment, and grants. And there's also administrative costs like student services, mental health support, career counseling, etc. This is actually pretty repetitive to this point of the number 2 points, which is exceptional faculty and resources, right? When it comes to cutting edge facilities, labs, libraries, tech, this is pretty repetitive reasons, but 喝口水，好的，谢谢，嗓子有点哑了哈。Okay, guys, follow me, please. You haven't done so. Okay, 大家宝子们没有关注我的，可以关注一波。Okay, follow me, please. You haven't done so. Yeah, there are over 120 people online now. If you guys are not following me, definitely follow me. Okay. We're about to reach 55,000 followers. If you can follow me, we'll be able to reach there very soon. And so for those of you who are haven't joined this followers group, definitely join this followers group. Okay, this is our family. This is our family. Yeah. When you switch back to Chinese, your voice turns soft and sweet. 哦，谢谢，谢谢。讲话声音比较柔是吗？啊，确实有很多人都说这个讲话声音比较柔哈。大家 so when people describe my voice, one of the very interesting word people would describe my voice is soothing. Okay, that's also the very first time I hear about this word. Before, I never know about this word called soothing, but somehow, like when my foreign friend said that, you know what, your voice is very soothing. I said, what does soothing mean? That is actually the very first time I hear about this word called soothing. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Soothing. Yeah, that is very true. She is soothing. Yeah. Anyhow, okay. So, administrative cost career counseling, that is true. I remember back then in my years in LSE and London School of Economics, they also have a very good teacher that, well, actually, more than one teacher, several teachers that helps us with career counseling, like helps us specifically how to prepare for job interviews, how to do networking, and also because especially for those top schools, lots of top top employers would come to the campus of those like top-notch schools to recruit. So there will be more like networking opportunities in those top-notch schools compared to others. So that is also, you know, I guess there's some costs around that as well. Yeah, I see lots of comments coming in. Yeah, see, Nitrous teaches a new word, soothing. Yeah, Douyin or Redbook, which do you like? Both, both, my friend. Yeah, so they serve for a different purpose. Nowadays, I use Redbook more because I started live streaming and sort of I would just check Redbook a lot more often. And also, I basically just use Redbook as a way of Google search. So I use Redbook a lot more. So I also, for those old followers who's been in here for a long time, a lot of people know that I'm a huge passion of I'm a huge fan of traditional Chinese medicine. Really, really like doing those Chinese traditional medicine routine. So that's why I would just actually read a lot of no Red Book, because inside Red Book there's so many people basically sharing so many suggestion on how to improve your health using those traditional medicine. Yeah. So I basically just use Red Note as a Google search. Yeah. So I use it more, but I also use Douyin because that one is more for entertainment, like both platform. Okay. Yeah, so the sixth thing is endowment funds and donation. While elite schools have huge endowments, Harvard is 60 billion US dollars, Yale's is 40 billion US dollars. Much of that money is restricted. Donors specify how it's used. So tuition helps cover operating expenses that endowment don't fully fund. Okay, yeah. So talking about this daily routine, I need to do this. 我来刮一下肺经啊 I'm gonna brush my long meridians at the very same time we're having this live stream. Okay，来，我一边这个做直播，一边刮一下我的这个肺经哈，肺经。这两天晚上有点咳，I would say that basically these several days I was coughing a little bit in the night, so that's why I need to brush my long meridian. I got this new baby. This is a very good baby. Okay, this is very comfortable. So while I talk, I will just brush my long meridian. Okay, I'll just brush my long meridian. Okay, yeah. So sort of what happens is the for those large endowment funds, it was based. So what exactly is endowment fund for those of you who do not know? So especially for those elite schools, they would have a lot of entrepreneurs who later on earn a lot of money. They want to give back to the society, to go give back to their own school that has nurtured them, to support more students who are able to study in this school, right? So what happens is that they would donate the money to those endowment funds, or in Chinese they're called 捐赠基金. 捐赠基金 for those endowment funds, and later on those endowment funds could then use those money to subsidize those students. So that's how those scholarships are from. Okay, the problem here, as mentioned by DeepSeek, is that because those endowment funds, when they are donated to the university's endowment fund, those scholarship donations have actually certain criteria. Like, for example, oh, I would only want to, give scholarships to, for example, Chinese students. Okay, only Chinese students who study philosophy could actually apply for this scholarship, right? So those donations would not be able to cover the rest of the operating expenses. So that is why that even though they have huge endowments, they could not actually use those kind of endowments. They could only use other money that comes from those tuition fee to cover the other expenses. You sound very knowledgeable and intelligent with a soothing Chinese voice. Oh, I like it. I like it. Yeah, guys, follow me, please. You haven't done so. Okay, there are around 130 people online at the same time. So for those of you who haven't followed me, don't forget to follow me. Okay, I'm doing my live stream at the very same time brushing my lung meridian. 一边刮我的肺经，一边做直播哈，刮肺经，心经和肺经，手臂上是心经和肺经，腿上是肝胆经和肝经，还有脾经。Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, and also the seventh reason. Well, that is also pretty much the same as facility. I think number 6 and number 7 are pretty repetitive. It says like from gourmet dining halls to state of art gyms and dorms, elite schools invest heavily in student life to attract top talent. This one, I guess yes or no. Yes or no. Well, I do not think like a lot of the elite school campus. Well, unless it's like Oxford, Cambridge, or Harvard. Otherwise, for some of the campus, it's not that good. But talking about, I have really need to mention about Stanford campus. Stanford campus. That's my asking. What is the name of your TCM brush? What's the name? This is called a meridian brush. Meridian brush. That's why if you really want it, what I can do is I'm gonna just put this thing on my curation list. So just so you guys know, nowadays you could also shop on Rednote. Okay, you could also shop on Rednote. So yeah, so one thing different is you have to pay an extra $10 or $15 for the shipping fee. You can enjoy the same price as us enjoying it here in China. So if you really want it, it's just called a meridian brush, 经络霜. So if you really like it, I'll just put it in my curation list. Do you know where to find curation lists? If you want to find my curation, it's just go to my homepage. You see all my posts, right? So it says called posts. The very next to it, there's a thing called curation, something like that. Yeah. Yeah. 我来放一下哈，这边刷完了，刷这边。Yeah, that side is done, so I'm gonna do this side. I'm gonna do this side. I have to put some oil on it first. Okay. Sorry, I was reading this. Glad I made you chuckle. Your English sounds savage, Americanized at points. Nice. What do you mean? Don't quite understand it. Okay. Some oil and then start to brush the meridian. 刮肺经. Okay. Yeah, that was a pretty good question. So I still remember that was one year that I went to visit my friend living in Silicon Valley, and she back then was living in Mountain Hill. I remember, yeah, Mountain Hill. So like she said, okay, since you're in here, I need to bring you to the campus of Stanford, and that is so beautiful. Oh my God, the campus of Stanford is so beautiful. I have to say, it is so beautiful. Yeah, so I was after visiting the campus of Stanford, I have to say it is true that if you have a beautiful campus, you can attract talent. Oh my God. So the campus of Stanford, the kind of architecture they have is of the same color. Something like a very reddish kind of color, a little bit reddish kind of color. I really like this kind of color. It has the kind of vibes. I don't know. It's very unique. I've been to so many different other campuses, right? So I told you guys that I did my master study in London School of Economics. As a matter of fact, I think the architecture in London School of Economics and LSE is not so good at all. And the campus is really small because it's in the center of London, and London is so expensive, right? So that's why when it comes to the campus, it's actually pretty small. The campus there is like really small, and the architecture is nothing special. So there are a lot of like amazing architecture there in London, but when you're talking about the architecture in London School of Economics, that was like so small and so not so good looking, a little bit ugly. I still remember the very first day when I reached London and I went to check my campus. It was so I was so shocked to see like what? That's it? So small? And that's the campus? Nothing else? I was like, "Wow, wait, no." Was so surprised. And then when I was there to the Stanford campus. Oh, the Stanford campus was huge. It was really big. We need to drive inside the campus, I feel like. Really big, and the architecture is so beautiful. So I'm have to go to my first college and share pictures. Very beautiful. Yeah, sure, Dasma. Please share. Please share the photos. You could also send me, DM me the photos of your college. Love to see that, right? But the campus of Stanford is so beautiful. I feel like when seeing the campus of Stanford, I feel like I almost wanted to study. Almost wanted to study again, in that campus. I feel like that campus is so beautiful. And my friend was like, "Yeah, you should, just apply for a master in whatever, relatively easy kind of master degree, and then just go there and study, and then, and then just enjoy the campus in here. And afterwards, what you can do is maybe just find a tech job in here and just stay here together with me." So my friend just basically said that. Yeah. Yeah, share it in the group. Is that Yeah, exactly. Share it in a group so that people can see the beautiful campus. Yeah. So well, I feel like the campus of they say that here in China there's a university. Lena, are you here? Not so sure if Lena is here, but Lena, if you're in here, they say that here the most beautiful campus here in China is Xiamen University. Xiamen University, they say they have the most beautiful campus. So Lena said you graduated from the accounting major in Xiamen University. So if you're in here, really want to see here if that is true. So the university of my undergrad degree, I just said that LSE, the campus was quite horrible. But when it comes to Shanghai Jiao Tong University, the campus is also quite big, quite good, but not to a point that you would feel like it's amazing. Like, oh my God, it's so beautiful. Like, it's amazing. Not to that point. But Stanford University is not like that. Stanford University, the campus is so beautiful. If I can relive my life, okay, I can relive my life. If I have children in the future, I would definitely bring my children to the Stanford campus just to let them see how beautiful this campus is. And yeah, just try to encourage him or her, try to one day in the future can get into Stanford University. And also, as a mom, I have to just work hard to earn enough money because nowadays all those elite schools is hard for you to get in unless you have a lot of money because the tuition fee is so high. So there's also a very interesting saying here in China called "鸡娃不如鸡自己." How many Chinese friends have heard about it? 鸡娃不如鸡自己. So if you translate that into English directly, that basically means instead of just pushing your kids to study hard, to work hard, why not just push yourself to work hard, earn money hard, so that you have enough money for your kids, so that your kids do not need to live a very tough life. Something called 鸡娃不如鸡自己. But I don't have a very good impression about Xiamen. Oh, really? I haven't been to Xiamen myself. 我还没有，我自己都还没有去过厦门，所以不知道厦门是啥样的。有一天可以去看一下鸡 boat。No talk，你好搞笑，鸡娃不如鸡自己，然后你来了一句鸡 boat 呀。What do you think about 731? I have no idea what is 731. I have no idea, Jay. What is 731? You're asking me something I do not know, so I cannot give you an answer to that. Yeah, so that's basically all the answers that DeepSeek gave me as a summary. So I asked DeepSeek, like, why is the tuition fee in the US top elite schools so high? It says, first of all, prestige and demand. These schools have strong reputations, global recognition, and a history of producing successful alumni. So high demand allows them to charge premium prices because students and parents believe the investment will pay off in career opportunities and networking. The first reason. Second is exceptional faculty and resources. I think that is sort of repetitive to number 6 and 7, which is elite schools attract world renowned professors, researchers, and industry leaders whose salaries are high. And they offer cutting edge facilities like labs, libraries, and technology, and small class sizes and personalized attention, which are expensive to maintain. 731, are you talking about the historical war crimes? Yeah. And guys, follow me, please, if you haven't done so, okay? Follow me, please, if you haven't done so. The third reason is financial aid and needs blind admissions. This one is very interesting because it says, ironically, high tuition helps fund generous financial aid. And many Ivy League schools offer full ride scholarships to low and middle income students. Schools like Harvard and Yale have need blind admissions, meaning they admit students regardless of ability to pay and cover the gap with aid. And fourth, which is networking and career opportunities. So elite schools provide unparalleled access to top employers, internships, and alumni networks. And graduates often secure high-paying jobs in finance, tech, laws, etc., justifying the cost. Okay, that's another reason. The fifth reason is research and institutional costs. So these universities conduct groundbreaking research requiring massive funding, massive funding for labs, equipment, and grants. And also administrative costs such as student services, mental health support, career counselings add up. And the sixth one is endowment funds and donations. Guys, follow me please if you haven't done so, okay? That is, while elite schools have huge endowments, such as Harvard has 50 billion US dollars and Yale has 40 billion US dollars of endowments, much of that money is restricted. Donors usually specify how it's used. Tuition helps cover operating expenses that endowment don't fully fund. And seventh, lastly, is luxury amenities and student experience. From gourmet dining halls to state of the art gyms and dorms, elite schools invest heavily in student life to attract top talents. So is it worth it? For many students, yes. If they receive financial aid or land high earning jobs, however, for those paying full price, the return on investment depends on their career path. Alternatives like top public universities like UC Berkeley, University of Michigan, or scholarships can offer similar outcomes at lower cost. Oh, UC Berkeley is a public school. I do not know that. I thought UC Berkeley is actually a private school. So UC Berkeley is a public school. That is good to know. What about UCLA? Is that also a public school? University of Michigan, also public school? Yeah. Would you like insights on how to reduce costs like scholarships, aids, etc.? Interesting. Okay, that's all for today, my friends. Okay, we have another very interesting discussion on this topic for 2 hours. There are a lot of things we can continue to discuss tomorrow, which is right now what we consider about those Western elite schools are hiring more and more students from wealthy families. We will continue with that tomorrow, which is Friday. And for those of you who haven't followed me, don't forget to follow me, okay? Don't forget to follow me. And thank you so much, my friends, for joining in today. And I look forward to see you again tomorrow. Bye bye. Bye bye.